What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I am joined by my good friend, Degenerate Jay. And I brought Jay in today because we're going to be tackling a spicy topic. I promised him, or at least I told him, that I wanted to do something a little bit more, risky. And I found something. This is something that's been going on online for the past couple of days. In fact, the person who posted this, their Twitter has been privated. Nobody can see it. They've blocked a good amount of people that are around them. They've also privated or taken down all the tweets in this thread. So somebody did a great service to the industry and made a document on this entire thing. They took the tweets out. So before I read through it, and we will read through it, and then we'll get our thoughts, Jay, thank you so much for being here.
Hey man, thanks for having me, and I'm really glad that some gaming historian stepped up, bit the bullet, and was able to somehow transfer this cancerous rant over to a Google Doc without being infected himself.
Yes, they're the absolute best. So all right, we're gonna read through, or actually, one final thing I should say. Make sure if you guys are not supporting Jay already that you are. All of his stuff, his main channel, his second channel, his Twitter, in the description, as well as a pinned comment. A great person, a great friend, and he does some amazing stuff on his channel, also talking about some, riskier topics over there. Okay, I'm going to try to jump around words because I don't want to say certain things, so we're just going to kind of dance around it, but we're going to read it really quick as I can say it, and then we'll go over our impressions of it. Something for my fellow men in game development, especially those just now entering the industry. There are a lot of things you may run into that aren't directly harmful to people in the same way as blank harassment, but they still contribute to hostile environments and harm. There's a strong chance I'm going to get some flack for saying this publicly, but it's worth bringing up because it's an example of how small things contribute to building environments that are hostile to women and all kinds of other marginalized people in game development. When I was on the latest Ratchet and Clank game, there was an incredibly heated discussion that happened between the game director, art director, the lead writer, and the lead character TD, and myself. It was about Rivet, the female lead. Note, of the three people above, including myself, no longer are at Insomniac, so three of them, actually two, and then him. I'm not going to tag them because they're adults. I trust them to comment if they feel it's appropriate. I assume they didn't touch this topic. The discussion, or argument really, was basically about whether we should make Rivet look more like a stereotypical feminine looking. That is, should we have her have wider hips, visible breasts, or bumps in her suit, and other physical traits we normally associate with cartoony women. The argument basically broke down to this. The game director and art director wanted her to have a visibly, fairly stereotypical feminine look. The lead writer, the lead character, TD, and I wanted to keep her as is. This is where things get into territory that men like myself in game development need to really pay close attention to. The lead writer was a woman. Oh my god. The lead character, TD, was a trans person who at the time had not transitioned. Everyone else in the discussion was a white cis man. So now you know that now you know the villain of the story and the heroes of the story. At the time the argument occurred, there were two women and one female presenting trans person on the team. That trans person had lived their life up to this point as a woman and had lived the experience thereof. Everyone else on the 20-person team was a man. None of this stuff, by the way, actually matters. It's just things to get people kind of riled up, and the people online, these are the people that this stuff, I guess, appeals to. So 2/3 of the women on the team, as well as one cis white man, me, was telling the art director and game lead that Rivet should not, as an alien space fox, so he doesn't even know that she's a Lombax, have wide hips and certain other things. We believe that, one, it went against the message of the game, which is that anyone can be a hero regardless of how they look. 2, you don't need to be a stereotypical feminine to be a woman. 3, Rivet is a alien space fox just like Ratchet. The argument has been going on for about half an hour before I finally pulled one of the framed Ratchet and Clank posters down from the wall, put it in front of both the leads, and told them to look at the damn thing and tell me how much Ratchet looked like a human man. The argument largely petered out after that point, with all parties leaving incredibly frustrated, and myself leaving the company a few weeks later. Can you believe that? The person was either fired or they quit. So fellow men in game development, this is an example of one of the very small things that build up over time to make life miserable for women and marginalized people in our industry. Something as simple as putting blank on a space rat can harm people. It breaks people's trust when they allow things like this to happen on challenge. If you don't push back against these little things, like giving Rivet blank, he really wants to emphasize this stuff, by the way, you're essentially saying that those things don't matter. Oh my god. If the small things don't matter, where's the line for the bigger things? I'm not perfect, and I have let things like this happen unchecked before. It happened in my first job, and I regret some of the choices I made when making characters there. It's not worth it. Speaking up on small things, heads off, Blizzard scale, stuff. For the game journal journalist reading this. Oh my God. No, I will not be commenting for the article you're inevitably writing. Do not contact me unless it's to talk directly about the work that I do and how technical processes can be. One thing I want to say about the ending here is gaming journalists would be the one supporting this guy. So that's actually kind of funny that he is almost attacking them. All right. So look, I brought in Jay here. Honestly, maybe partially to kind of hold me back if I say some stuff. Maybe he can hear it in a friend kind of way and let you guys know where I stand. So let me just say a couple things. I want to hand it over to Jay. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever read in my life, and it's kind of sad. So, this is a little thing. In fact, it's so little that it really doesn't matter whatsoever, and it's surprising to him that it wouldn't matter at all. I played the game. I platinumed the game. I called it my game of the year. This game is a fun game. It doesn't push anything on you. Okay, this is a game that literally, when we talk about games and we say the game is fun, oftentimes that doesn't even like when you talk about The Last of Us Part 2, does anybody even say the game's fun to play or the game is fun in the first place? I know that games can be serious, games can be political, games can be, they don't have to be labeled as fun to be a good game. But I mean, hearkening back to the good old days of gaming, your game should be fun, or it can be fun, and that actually can add points to your game. So it's rare, actually, it seems nowadays, that a game can come out and you say, you know what, the best trait about that game is it's fun. And that's the number one thing everybody, not just me, has said about Ratchet and Clank. I don't care what Rivet is, but I mean, Rivet's a girl. You can tell that based off of her face and her voice, even maybe her color. I never once looked at the feminine features of her. I could care less. I don't really think anybody cares about any of that stuff. I mean, I don't know, Jay... I'm gonna probably process this a little bit more in my head, get a little mad. What do you think about it? Did I say anything there that you would like to correct of me? And go ahead.
No, I mean, the only thing I will say is that I think people do care more about those feminine features than you or anyone think. And it's not really to correct you, it's just that, I got married a while back, and obviously I spent a lot of time with my wife. And one thing that she pointed out to me, it's something that I always thought, is that it's weird how Hollywood and also video game companies are scared of women. They're very scared of making them look like women. And that's going to sound mean, but look, here's the thing. I am a bit of a chunky guy. A guy in peak physical shape, which is what guys should want to be. If you don't, I'm sorry, you have a bit of a problem, because you should want to take care of yourself. I'm not saying be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a guy typically in good health born with a good body, in good shape, would be someone at least slightly muscular, fairly thin, kind of broad shoulders. That's a healthy man. And people will say that's a stereotype. No, that's just if you take really good care of your body, that's what it turns into, right? With women, it's the same thing. Look at things like superheroes. None of them, there's a few, but for the most part, superheroes are fairly thin or really in good shape. They're sort of these Greek god-esque pictures of what people want to be. Now, not every character has to be that. If you want to make Ellie from The Last of Us, and she's a little tomboyish, obviously, she is into girls, and she is also not really caring a ton about her appearance because she's out there basically fighting a one-person war. Cool. That person doesn't need to put on, have Revlon hair products in and put on makeup and all this stuff. Doesn't need it. But there's a lot of characters where that's a part of them. Characters like Starfire in DC Comics or Wonder Woman. Being a woman is a big part of who they are, just like Spider-Man is a man. He's not Spider-Person. And that's not to attack trans people or anything like that. But I think that some people think that they are the standard when they are not. Typically, and I'm going to go further probably than you in terms of people will probably be more mad at me than anything you said. Typically, the standard default human beings are straight people who look like the sexuality they were born as. That doesn't mean other people don't matter. But there's a reason why these people call these communities marginalized or minority communities in any way. It's because they're not the majority. So I don't understand when someone wants a character to look like most people do, why someone else would be mad about that. Just as I don't understand the other way around. If you have a character that doesn't look as much like a purely feminine woman, that's cool too. But there's example after example of these companies changing it and getting mad when people don't like that. Another one recently was Lola Bunny from Space Jam, where the director had said that people thinking that it was censorship and thinking the redesign wasn't good were super weird. Basically, in the interview, he went on to imply, in a way, he didn't say this, but it really came across to me and a lot of other people like he was sort of implying that men who thought that were inside cellulars. You know, I'm sure people can figure out what that means because I'm trying not to say the word on your channel. And kind of like lonely-ish people who should go out and get a girlfriend, that sort of thing seemed to be the vibe that he was pushing in this interview about Lola Bunny. And it's just like, well, no, dude, people just like what they like. Like, what's wrong with that? And, you know, it's another thing too. My wife was talking about this with a lot of these characters. It actually sends a bad message to say that to be a hero, you need to look like you are gender ambiguous or non-binary or any of these things. Like, it doesn't mean you can't be those things, but why can't a woman who has womanly features also be a hero? Like, what's wrong with that? Why does that have to be a bad thing too? A lot of, you know, she even pointed out a lot of little girls, herself included, when she was younger, you know, and a little girl, obviously not now, they look up to these characters and they want, like, some of them really like these characters that are very feminine. They're these alpha type versions of what they want to be, like how young men will look up to Terminator and be like, oh man, he's really manly, he's cool. There's nothing wrong with people getting into those things, and I don't understand why these people, I don't know this game developer's name exactly. I know you said that he's now looking for a job and can't find one, and to that I say, well, surprise, surprise, if this is how you react to small things. I don't understand why these people have such an anger management problem, and their personal identity is so tied up in what they make versus trying to make a fun and entertaining product. Like, they shouldn't have gotten mad about this. I think it's very amusing, I guess, to me. You can speak to some stuff that I said, obviously, as well here, and I'm not trying to be mean to anyone in anything I'm saying. It's just that I think they're doing a disservice to women as well, and even a lot of trans women. They, you know, if you look at trans women, they want to be a woman. You know, like that's the thing, is like, I identify as a woman, I'm going to present that way. And they don't typically often, and there are some who do, they don't typically want to look non-binary or non-gender identifying. They use female traits. So I don't understand why someone who's trying to defend that group would then be so against female traits, almost in a really, really weird way that seems hateful in an odd way. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, and it just kind of comes off as very disturbing, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I mean, and to add on, or I guess to close your thoughts out with that, one thing I think is important to always say with those things too is that, you know, what often happens with these people is, you know, you and me both preach the same thing: be who you want, think how you want, you know, think independently, all that stuff, but, you know, do whatever. And what often happens with these kind of people is they'll want to prop up, and they do it, I think a lot of them do it knowingly, or maybe they are so stupid that they don't. They want to prop up people, or a kind of person, so much that they end up literally being certain words, you know, R words, you know, S words to other groups by doing so, right? They prop up somebody that's a certain way, but then actually, like you said, so you prop up something so much, but then you're actually saying that a fit woman, let's just say a fit woman, if you are that, now basically you're not cool, you're not normal, you're weird, you're doing it maybe for attention, you should really be, I don't know, crediting people that don't look like you, maybe they're better than you. It really becomes that. And so these people will say, well, Alex, they're not, or Alex and Jay, they're not, you know, they're not being that word to those people, they're just kind of propping up other people, or they're doing it so much that they're actually looking down. That's why the whole male thing, right? But without going too much into that, one final thing I want to say is that it ultimately, what I meant with the whole female outcome to this is it really didn't matter. She actually does kind of look like, somebody made a good point where she almost looks like a reskin of Ratchet. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the assets used to make Ratchet were used to make Rivet, and they just changed colors, and they have obviously Jennifer Hale, who's the voice of the female Commander Shepard, doing her voice. That's really the only things that they changed. Maybe, like, I don't know. I don't want to see. I'm not weird like these crazy people. I'm not going to like examine the degrees of her hips to see if they're that feminine. Ultimately, I mean, I guess I can tell that's a girl, but and I guess to him that's a bad thing. He didn't want people to look at Rivet and say, "Oh, that's a female." Even though it's funny is, you look at Ratchet as a male. So while he keeps going on that Ratchet, does this look like a male thing? Well, yeah, you can keep saying that all you want, but why can Ratchet be based off of a male? No matter how little he actually looks like a male person, but he is a male. We all know that, right? So we know a male Lombax in the universe, if we want to get this nerdy, not to say it's a bad thing, but we want to get into that. A male Lombax in the Ratchet and Clank world looks like Ratchet, okay? A female Lombax would look like Rivet. And I think it honestly makes sense how they did both of them. I have no problem with Rivet's design. It's just funny that he threw a fit over this. He left. Maybe he got fired. It does sound like he quit. That's fine. He's still looking for a job. That's fine. I don't know if he's going to find... Well, you know what? No, honestly, he will find one because these kind of people, sadly, do get hired. I'll take that. I'll take that punch to him. These people do get hired, and they probably shouldn't be. But ultimately, it's just funny because it doesn't really matter. Nobody picked on this game for that. Nobody cared that Rivet looked like that at all. Like not one way. I actually made an entire video praising Rivet and saying I would actually give her her own spin-off game. That's how much I liked her. I don't care. Like that's the thing. People don't get this bent out of shape like this person does. But this is just another example. A common theme on my channel is talking about, gaming journalists. They hate us. We know that. And I know that's maybe a very, it's a big statement to make. But they do. They hate gamers. They hate actual gaming journalists. They hate us at home. They hate their job. They hate their life. And yet they still write it anyway. I wouldn't say all game developers. In fact, very few do. It's just they kind of stand out and they get love from each other. They don't like us either. And I just think that maybe not even that, but they definitely, like Jay said earlier, this guy had his own vision, this Xavier. He had his own vision of what he wanted Rivet to look like, and then he was going to use social norms, new social norms, to kind of push that, and he didn't care what anybody else had to say. In fact, he went so far to categorize every single in fact, he does things, this is the last thing I'll say, he does things in this article, or in this tweet thread, by literally labeling each person on his development team. Isn't that certain words that we're not supposed to use anymore? Or why are you labeling everybody? One's a trans woman, one's a woman, one's a white male. Like I said, that obviously is the antagonist of his fairy tale. That's the villain, because we know that. That's like, why couldn't you say there's 5 of us, 3 didn't agree, 2 did agree? Why couldn't you just say that? Instead, it has to get into, well, what do they identify as? Obviously, that has something to do with it. When it really, it shouldn't happen at all. So that's the final thing I'll say. I hate this entire thing, but I'm glad we talked about it. Jay, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I guess that what I have to say too is that the thing that really upsets me about crazy people like this, or that I perceive as crazy, is that they in general make things worse for the people that they say that they're sticking up for. Whether it's someone who is trans, or someone who is, homosexual or bisexual or any other sexuality or anything. I think a lot of people just kind of keep their heads down and live their lives. They don't, even heterosexual people, they're not out there like, man, it's amazing to be hetero. No. They don't their own lives like this. I think that these people often, like people like this guy, often want attention. He made this entire story about himself. He's the hero. He identified as the hero in this story, and he either quit or was fired, but made it sound like he quit for his principles and all this stuff, right? A lot of these people are attention seekers, and they make people who actually deal day to day with identity stuff feel bad and have a harder time and not want to talk about those things, because the people who do talk about them are crazy people making headlines or getting in the news or ending up in YouTube videos, and that makes people more worried about talking about who they actually are. And I think that really upsets me. I had a friend, this is my closing thought, I had a friend, she was actually gay, and we used to hang out all the time. Like, she was awesome, and we were best friends. She moved away to go to college, but I remember one thing that she said that really stuck out to me, because we read something similar to this, and this was years ago when I was in college. was that one of the reasons she felt like she couldn't talk about being gay, and one of the reasons she felt like she couldn't talk about who she was because the only people who got attention for doing that were crazy people who based their entire identity around that, or hijacked those lifestyles, or anything like that, for attention. They made it all about them. They got in the news. They made that entire community look crazy, and they made just normal people who were gay or bi or any of these things or trans look like crazy people by extension, because they'd be associated with these people. People like Xavier are doing more harm than good. This person is a joke. I truly hope they don't find a job, and I hate going there because I think karma sometimes catches up to people who say stuff like that. But I don't think we need more people like this in game development or Hollywood or any of these industries. I hope that he doesn't die or anything. I hope he goes off and finds a job at McDonald's, or goes and works somewhere where I don't have to hear about him ever again. But I don't think people like this should be helping shape narratives and universes that have a lot of creativity and imagination when they don't even have the emotional maturity to deal with differing opinions. That's my closing thought. It just is annoying and obnoxious. I don't wish any ill will on this person, other than I hope they find a job in a different industry and stop poisoning the one that we like.
Very, very good thoughts. So final things, just to appease the YouTube gods, just make sure we're all clear. Number one, do not contact him. Do not write to him. He privated pretty much everything, so I don't even think you could get to him if you wanted to. Secondly, Jay and I think we both very much agree on this. Be yourself. Think for yourself. You can do whatever you want. We wish the absolute best for pretty much anybody that watches our videos. So we are saying nothing against any group or groups of people. And I think that I'm pretty sure that summarizes everything. We want you guys to be happy. We want you guys to check out our videos and to just keep living your own life. So make sure you guys are supporting Jay on all of his endeavors on his own channel. He does a phenomenal, phenomenal job. Make sure you guys are subscribed here. Jay, thank you so much for being on probably the most risky video either of us have made.
I really do hope that people, don't take the wrong message from this video or anything like that. I want people to be happy and be themselves and live their life, but like, you don't need to tell other people how to do it, really, and you don't need to lash out so much like this person was doing. I just don't understand it. I hope that he gets the anger management problem he clearly needs, to get in check, solved, and maybe turns his life around.
Also, it's a Lombax, not an alien fox. Hopefully he corrects that on his resume. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.